Welcome to Audio Path, where we take a real look at making a living in music.
Ever wonder what it's like to make a living in music outside of the big industry hubs? We're here to pull back the curtain with raw, unfiltered conversations about the ups, downs, and everything in between.
Join us, John Kimbrough,
And Trent Harrison,
as we share real-world insights, experiences, and stories from behind the scenes in the music industry. Whether you're an artist, audio nerd, or you just love music, we've got something for you.
this is Audio Path, where the hustle is real and the passion runs deep. All right, welcome back to Audio Path Podcast, where we talk about all things audio and the journey from beginning to wherever you are now.
Wherever the path leads you.
Yeah, wherever the path leads you. So today, episode 3, right? We have a
Technically
two-parter.
4, because we had the 2. We'll call it episode 3.
We'll call it episode 3 because we
Yeah.
had episode 2 is a 2-part episode.
That's right.
But episode 3 is on education. Specifically, do you need to go to music or audio school, or can you just jump right in?
What a
to
great
the
question.
industry? Yeah.
The education episode. We're here.
Yes, we're here.
Yes.
I know. I've been looking forward to this one because I think it's a very controversial topic, and also there's no one real right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
There's a lot of different ways to get to the same place, really.
Very
And
true.
So we're going to try to break that down, mostly pulling from our own experiences and kind of tell everyone the paths that we've chosen or did choose at the time to get to where we are now. And we'll give a little bit of history. I mean, up until this point, John, we really haven't talked about much of our past or history or how we got here. We have mainly been focusing on where we are now.
Yeah.
So,
Who knows? Maybe people are listening and they're like, these guys seem cool, but
but who are they?
Do they even know what they're talking
Yeah.
about? Like,
Are they qualified?
can I
We're
trust these guys?
barely qualified.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, everything's relative.
Everything's relative. But
But it's good. Yeah, we're going to talk history. We're going to talk about maybe what we would recommend at this point
Right.
to you as a listener and why. And it's going to be a fun one. It's
Yeah.
going to be a really good episode, I think.
absolutely. So, John, why don't you kick things off and tell us about your journey, your path in audio. When was the moment that you decided that's where you wanted the path that you wanted to take, and then maybe depending on when that was, fast forward to education moments and talk about how that happened for
Yep.
you.
Cool. Well, I was born at a very young age to 2 parents.
I was a little babe.
That's right. No, I'm joking. Yeah, my path is a little complicated. Let's just try to follow it. I'll try to lay it out kind of simply. Really broad overview. I have always been a musician, so I started as a musician first, really, and then wound up in the engineering space out of a perceived need, and that perceived need was simply, hey, it doesn't matter that I can sing really well or play these instruments really well if I can't do anything with them. And that came out of a space where I was mostly working in churches and things like that, and I didn't have a dedicated sound engineer. It was me. But I also had to be up on the stage. So that's kind of what sparked all of this within me. And yeah, so I'll just start kind of at the beginning of that journey. And it was when I was 4 years old, I walked up to my parents, and I don't remember this. I walked up to my parents and I said, hey, I want to take piano lessons.
Nice.
And that probably came from my older brother taking piano lessons and watching him and listening to him and all of that. And so they, I didn't grow up in a family that had a whole lot of money, but they made that a priority and they put me in piano lessons. And I'm grateful for that to this day. So started on piano. By the time I hit fourth grade, I was actually homeschooled in fourth and fifth grade. Yes, I'm one of those guys, apparently. So
That
I was
explains a lot.
There you go. So I was homeschooled for fourth and fifth grade, and there was a band that started in the town that I lived in outside of Atlanta called the Joyful Noise Homeschool Band,
Wow.
and they were not
It was not
a
a
joyful
joyful
noise.
sound.
It was awful
Oh,
in there,
no.
man.
Oh, no.
But I kind of had a leg up because I wound up going to public middle school and mostly public high school, although I did like a year and a half at a private school. And anyway, but I wound up getting to start playing trumpet 2 years before all of my other peers would when they got to middle school. So I picked up trumpet in fourth grade and was playing in this Joyful Noise homeschool band, and it was a good foundation. It was a really good place to start learning a band context. And so through the course of doing that, my parents recognized, oh, John also has, like some talent, not just in piano, but in this other instrument. And so they started, putting me in lessons for trumpet playing as well and all that. So I went all the way through middle school and was, really studying hard at trumpet and piano at the same time, but trumpet was really my thing. I actually hated piano at this point. I was just kind of done with the instrument. I felt bored on it.
Okay.
And anyway, so I did that all the way through. I had been singing kind of like in church choirs up until that point. And then, wound up going to a private school, doing the whole marching band thing, all of that. And then I was moving back from my private school to public school again. My education is like all over the place. But so I was going back and I didn't feel like I wanted to rejoin band for various reasons coming back to the public high school that I was at. So I was like, well, I still like music and I still want to do music in school. Like maybe I'll just join chorus, like I've sung in church choirs and all that kind of stuff. Like I could probably do chorus. And so, went into there and auditioned and made it into choir. And by the time it came around to start looking at schools and things, I was mostly looking at communication majoring or something like that. But then I was like, well, this is stupid. I do love music. Why don't I just look at schools for music?
Yeah.
And so I did that and, started some auditioning processes and things like that. But I wound up getting this letter, like a literal letter in the mail from Carson Newman College at the time, now university, which is outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. And I don't know how I got on their mailing list, but I did. And it was an invitation to compete in their full tuition scholarship. And so they were like, hey, we have it for keyboards, which at this school would have been piano or organ, because they have a conservatory model,
Okay.
or at least they did, voice or other instrument.
Yeah.
And so I got this letter in the mail. I opened it up, and I remember talking to my mom and being like, hey, I think I want to do this. Like, I think I don't really know what it is, but, it's a competition for a full tuition scholarship. Like, I kind of want to give it a shot.
Try it, yeah.
So anyway, and my mom asked me at the time, she said, well, what instrument do you want to try out on? Because I had, I could fit into any of the categories at the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of surprised her because I said, I think I want to do voice. And she was like, okay. Because in her mind, she's like, that's the one that like technically you have the least experience in and all of this or whatever. But I always felt comfortable singing. I mean, I don't remember a time in my life that I wasn't singing. And so anyway, so long story short, I booked first 2 voice lessons of my life with somebody in town who taught me how to pronounce some Italian words for this song that I was going to use to audition. And I went in and I auditioned and it went really well and I got the full ride.
Nice.
So that kind of made my decision for me.
Totally.
As far as like what to study in school, it was like, I'm going to go where I can go to school for free and get a good education. And
there you go.
Yeah,
Great.
so all the other options kind of went out the door at that point, and I was just like, nope, this is what I need to do. And so I did it, and it was a great experience. I mean, 4 years, I got a voice performance degree, and I also got a music theory degree at the same time. Nice. Just went full bore, classically trained musician, and then went on to get my master's as well. But at the time, though, I had been, even when I was in like high school and some of middle school, the church that I grew up in was like a really big mega church in Atlanta. And I just started volunteering on the production team, not even in sound or anything like that. They typically were looking for people who already had some training to do that. But I was like constantly on, it was called Media Shout back then, before Pro Presenter was a thing. If you're in the church spaces, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But so I was just up there, always in the booth running stuff, but I was always listening and paying attention to what the sound person next to me was doing and was super curious about it even from a really young age. Fast forward, when I got into college and was studying voice, I wound up joining this like campus band. We were called Seed Company.
Okay. All right.
And I joined Seed Company to be their lead singer, but also because I could play keys and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, getting a music theory degree, so I knew how to do chord charts and all that.
Yeah.
But to join, I just had this thought. I was like, everybody else who has been like a leader of this band historically has played guitar. I should probably learn how to play guitar.
Okay. So this band was like going along, or it like stayed on campus?
It stayed on campus.
And so
it had like a rotating member. Once you graduated, somebody else filled your place.
Someone else came in. Interesting. Interesting. That's a cool concept.
It was. And it was a great place to grow and learn. But yeah, so that's how I picked up guitar, which is like now basically like aside from voice, my primary instrument.
Yeah.
Even though I still play keys all the time. But yeah, I just picked it up because I was like, I feel like I should do this. Yeah. And like, if I want to keep doing this worship leader thing and I feel called to do it, like I should,
Gotta be comfortable.
I got to play guitar, I guess.
Right. Makes sense.
So yeah, that's what I did. And there's a picture of me online somewhere that my wife sometimes pulls up because it's hilarious. And I have like a goatee and I'm holding this Taylor 214 that I barely know how to play.
I've seen this picture.
You've seen that? Yeah, you have,
great.
haven't you?
She showed us.
I think that was actually because I asked her to come out to one of those shows. That was the first conversation she and I ever had, which was stupid.
Well,
because I sucked.
Worked out okay.
It worked out fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was kind of that path. But because of all of that, we also didn't really have anybody who knew what they were doing with sound. And like we would take our spring breaks and we would go on tour and stuff. And so like somebody had to know how to do it. And we had somebody who was in that role, but they were student, they didn't really know a whole lot. There wasn't an engineering school at Carson Newman, at least at the time. There may be now, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I need to learn this too. And that's just kind of how I work. I'm like, I am interested in this. And so I'm going to learn everything there is to know about it. Yeah. Because I just love information.
Yeah.
I'm like, feed me information.
I bet you our listeners, there's a lot of them that feel that way.
Probably so. Yeah. We're probably connecting right now.
Right. Exactly.
Hope we are.
Exactly.
So I was learning that just kind of by rote at the time. And then fast forward a few years, that's kind of how I was doing it for a while. I wound up moving here to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where we are, which is where Hourglass is. Mm-hmm.
Wait, hold on. Rewind a little bit. The master's, where did that come from?
Oh, yeah. So, I have a master's in theology.
Okay, right.
Yep. So that came from Carson Newman as well.
Okay, so same school.
Same school because my wife, fiance at the time, was finishing school, and I had been looking at like seminary options and stuff, and wound up just being like, well, Carson Newman has a master's in theology. I think I just want to do that. Yeah. So I got that at the same time she was getting her undergrad while serving as a worship pastor at two different churches in Knoxville, and I was working a full-time job at the university. I used to do like development work, so fundraising and grant writing and stuff. Yeah. It was way too much. It was a lot.
A lot. Sounds like it.
And getting my master's. But, that finished up, and then my wife and I moved here to Wilmington so I could start working as a worship pastor at First Baptist Church downtown. Yep. And then COVID hit.
Oh, yeah. What year did you move here?
Moved here in 2017. So I had like 2.5 years under my belt. And COVID hit, and just like everybody else, really, I had to step up to the plate even more. Yeah. I'd already been serving like as the production director, basically, at First Baptist because nobody else was doing that, in addition to the worship pastor. Yeah. And at this point, I'd sharpened my teeth as a live engineer. Yeah. Like, I knew what I was doing. I could get a good mix dialed in. Like, I knew what I was doing. COVID hit, and I had to translate all of that to the studio world. Yeah. And I had to become a studio engineer. Yeah. And so how did I do that? Well, I took kind of, I guess, a non-traditional path before COVID hit, thankfully, I had signed up for this internship that used to exist at Sweetwater Studios
Nice.
up in Indiana.
Yep. Love
And-
it. Shout out.
And yeah, I don't think this internship exists anymore. I think it's kind of different than, like, I know it's different than it was. But at the time, it was an opportunity to sit under Mark Hornsby, shout out Mark, and learn from him in a studio environment. And I was stoked on that because if you don't know Mark Hornsby, he's recorded a lot of people like in CCM.
Yeah.
Like when Stephen Curtis Chapman was a big deal, all of that, like he was in the
dude.
seat.
Yeah.
He was in the seat. And so I was stoked on that and went up there. It was a great experience for many reasons, but the one that sticks out is I learned how much I didn't know.
Yeah. That's important.
Yep.
Very important.
I just kind of was like, whoa, like there's a lot of this that is so much more than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And it was humbling and inspiring.
Yeah.
And those two things kind of like are a parallel in my life of just when I get humbled, I get really inspired because I'm like, there's so much more to this. Like, wow, let's go. Like, I'm stoked now.
That's awesome.
So I came home from that and just started doing like everything I could to really start becoming the next level of engineer that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I just some of the things that I still do that I carry over from then. I absorb information through reading very quickly. That's just kind of who I am and who I always have been. So still to this day, I read a user manual a week minimum for a piece of gear, for a mixing console, whatever it may be. And I started doing that right after leaving there because this one time I had a question about something Mark was doing in Pro Tools. And he literally, and this is Mark, he leans back and he reaches behind him and he pulls out a book.
Wow.
That's like this thick. And it is Pro Tools for Dummies.
Oh. Dang.
And I was like, he was like, nobody really reads anymore, John.
Oh.
And I was like, man.
Oh, okay. I'll read it.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
So I did. I read Pro Tools for Dummies. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what started that. And again, that all was right before COVID hit that I did all of that.
Yeah.
So I already started learning some of these things and applying things and trying to, maybe do what you're doing right now as a listener, just like listen to podcasts and like watch videos of people and all of that, having been in a room with a pro. And then with COVID, I just literally, the church that I worked at the time needed me to step up and basically start tracking all of our musicians ahead of time, creating finished, mastered tracks that were ready for distribution because our church closed down for 2 straight years. So during the course of 2 years, I did the math on this pretty recently. I wound up having to, in 2 years, create a total of 127 finished tracks.
Wow. Finished songs.
Finished songs.
Wow.
And going from not doing any of that ever to that
But you learned a lot.
grew me massively.
I bet. Yeah. And so that, I'm glad that we're on that right now because that right there is a just jump in kind of moment, right?
Yep.
So obviously, John, as you just heard, had a good deal of education prior to that, but I would dare say that he learned a whole lot more in that time span than he did in double the amount of time in
100%.
school. Yeah.
Yeah. And as part of that too, the last thing I'll say as far as the journey goes, and there's much more after that, but part of the journey too was there's a church in California called Bethel Church, and they do like, you've probably, if you're a worship person, you're listening to this, I'm sure you know who Bethel is, and they're in Bethel music and all of that. I wound up signing up for their worship school right in the middle of all of that because of one reason. I wanted to get in the room with a guy named Luke Hendrickson. And Luke is the guy who mixes their broadcast just about every week. He's the one who kind of invented mixing broadcast in a DAW instead of doing it on a console. And he's got this excellent template that's out. And I bought his template just to learn from it, just to like open the thing up and just be like, okay, how is he doing what he's doing? That's where I learned source tone is massively important.
Yep.
Because that is Bethel's secret is their players are monsters. Like that's what makes their music great in addition to the mixing and mastering. But anyway, so I knew of him. I'd basically taken it upon myself to study his work and just like try to learn as much as I could from what he was doing. So I signed up for worship school. They have a track that is called studio production, and you basically get to sit in the control room and learn from Luke. And it's like limited to 15 seats and all that kind of stuff. And so I signed up early. I emailed. I was probably really annoying, but I got in, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Completely. Like Luke he is an incredible person. I actually work for him now with Production Online, and he's just a great guy, phenomenal engineer. I mean, ears like you wouldn't believe, and he's been a great guide through the process of continuing to learn from me. Even not even from like as much a hands-on standpoint, even though we have had that. It's much more so from a standpoint of here's the work that I have put out, and on my side of things being like, I can learn from this. This is great. And of course now it's a beautiful thing to have the relationship where I could like send him a mix to review. You know, I try not to abuse that, but like it's been great. I mean, the feedback he's given me has always put me at the next level.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then finally, the mastering side of things, I did go through mastering.com's the reverse engineer program.
Mm-hmm.
And from a growth standpoint, that was massive for me. That program is really, really great. It is expensive. It's basically like getting another degree, sort of. But I needed it, and I was at a point in time where I was ready to take the next step, so it made sense for me to go ahead and pay for that. Yeah. And that's where I fell in love with mastering and became I'm really trying to just like be a mastering engineer now,
right?
As far as studio stuff goes.
That's right. That's your jam.
That's my jam, man. I do love it.
Nice.
It's a lot. There's a lot that kind of, but I'm sure yours is similar. So talk to me about what you've done and how you got there.
It is. I mean, it's a journey, right?
It's a path.
It's a path.
A journey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess mine would go back to similar to yourself. Started out as a musician. I want to say that I picked up the guitar first, and this is like early middle school time frame. So maybe I'm like, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Something like that. Maybe 13, who knows. But at around that time, picked up the guitar, but it didn't really stick. I don't really recall why, but it didn't stick, and I put it down, and then sort of tried to go towards drums, but like I don't think my parents were really into that happening at the time.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I was pretty young, and I don't know, maybe that it ended up not being right for me anyway, so it was fine. But tried that for a bit, but then ultimately fell into bass. And what the catalyst for that was at the tail end of middle school, or maybe was right when high school started, little blurry. I was my best friends at the time. He was playing guitar, and his little brother was playing drums, and they were jamming together. And they're like, "Hey, if you play the bass, we can start a band." I was like, "All right, that sounds great."
That's the most bassist coming to the bass story I've ever heard in my life.
100%. The most cliche. Like, this is the bass. Well, no one else wants to do it, so
nobody else wants to play this thing.
Maybe you could start there since you don't have any experience with any other instruments, right? And they were right.
Oh my God.
But I guess it kind of I'll briefly touch. It goes back farther than that. Like, I've always been drawn to music. Like, I guess I started out as, even younger in elementary school, or 5, 6, 7 years old, just listening and singing along and loving music. And I'd be lying if I didn't say a lot of that was like Disney songs, because those are fire. I mean,
Alan Menken, shout out.
Yeah,
that guy can compose.
Disney music is dope. It's really good stuff. And so I grew up on that, and that type of thing led into, the music that my parents were listening to, and a lot of top 40 stuff. I won't lie, we hit a lot of that stuff as well. But what I eventually like grew closer towards and like kind of found my own thing when I started playing and towards that in that middle school range was like indie rock kind of stuff. Like I remember like Linkin Park was blowing up when I was in middle school and I was all about that.
I love Linkin Park.
Yeah, yeah, they're awesome. And so once I found them, it just spread it out into all sorts of different other bands that were underground, I guess, in relation to like Sheryl Crow and Jewel and whatever, all that out there at the time. And so anyway, started playing bass in the band that I fell into.
Yep.
Yep. And but never really looked back. Like bass is still my main instrument. And as far as education goes, I started taking lessons to learn how to play the instrument so that I could play in the band. Like that was the goal, was to hang out with my friends and play with them. And learning the instrument was a pathway towards that. So that's what I wanted to do. And loved music, so playing it made sense. And then, so played in the band all through high school. A couple members came and went, still stayed on bass the whole time. And then when it came time to like figure out, okay, what am I going to do for a career? What is my college, of course, was like the next step at the time, which we can talk about whether that's even right for you in this day and age, because back then when John and I were in school, it was almost mandatory without being mandatory, right?
It was a different time.
It was a different time. It was the only path.
It really was.
But it was what was pushed. It was a socially accepted norm at that point in time. And so you went to college after high school in most cases. And so I had to, really think about that. What did I want to study? What did I want to do? I was also, and still am, really into history. And so there was, during my like late junior year and into senior year when we're applying for colleges, I was thinking about going to college and studying history, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah, which is totally different than where I ended up today. But what ended up happening was I really had like a moment where I thought about like, what am I really passionate about? What do I love doing the most? And that was playing music. And it came to a point to where I was like, I'm no Jimi Hendrix, right? Like, let's just be real. At least I was smart enough to realize that back in the day.
Yep.
And I thought, maybe there's another avenue that I can take. And at the same time, it all kind of like was serendipitous and kind of fell together that my band in high school was trying to record our own demo. And so the guitar player in my band had like an old, like, it was either Sony or Tascam, like straight to CD, like 4-track recorder.
Oh yeah, I know
Remember
the one.
those things?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like revolutionary at the time because you could literally go straight to a CD.
Yeah.
And CDs were hot.
It's a huge deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
So that means it could all be done yourself, which was awesome. It was perfect for us. It was just a high school band, just no money, and couldn't fathom going into a studio at that point in time and actually, spending what it would cost to do the thing. So we did that, and I loved that. That thing was so cool to me, and just digging into recording ourselves and finding, the effects and the sounds and like figuring out how to record the drums and figuring out how to record the vocals and just playing with that machine really like sparked my interest in the whole recording process. And so that being said, coupled with the what am I going to do and music being the thing that I love the most, and realizing that I wasn't like a virtuoso, instrumentalist or singer or anything like that, I gravitated towards the technical side. And I thought maybe there's a career for me in recording or something. And then with some like online searching, and I think talking to a friend at the time, I heard about Guilford Tech's entertainment technology program. And so it was not far from where I lived. I grew up in Winston-Salem, and it was only like 45 minutes away. And I was like, what does that entail? So I did some research. They had a recording engineering degree, a live sound degree, an artist management degree, and a performance degree. And you dabble in all of those when you pick your path. And I chose recording engineering. That was what I was interested in the most. And so, okay, but so also at the time, I'm still battling with going to study history, right?
What a battle.
Right. I know, which seemed ridiculous. But in my mind, I was like, can I really make a career in music? And like, I'm sure a lot of you listening, like that might be why you're even listening to this podcast at all, because you're curious to know if it is possible to have a career in music, even on a smaller scale, right? The answer is yes.
Totally. Totally.
But like that was in my mind. I was battling, like, I don't know what I was going to do with history anyway. It was just the only other thing that I was really interested in. I was going to be like an architect or something like that. I mean, an archaeologist, excuse me. I don't know. But, or work at I think I was thinking maybe working at a history museum was going to be something for me. But anyway, fortunately, I did not take that path. Thinking about all of that, and then like I remember last minute, like it probably was senior year, and I applied to Guilford Tech for the music, for the recording engineering, and I'd also applied to App State for history. And I remember I toured App and loved it. I loved Boone. Boone's awesome. Had some friends that were going there. Like it was a tougher decision. And then I toured Guilford Tech, and the music director of Guilford Tech was the old music director of App and quit his job at App to come to Guilford Tech because he saw how much potential and how much better of a program it was going to be there.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, well, that says a lot about this school. If the other school that I was potentially interested in, he left there to go here, well, maybe I should just follow that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm so glad that I did. And so I ended up going to Guilford Tech. It was like a 2.5-year long program. Studied recording engineering. I learned a lot. It was an awesome experience. And yeah, no regrets at all on that one.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah. So afterwards, during, without spending too much time talking about all the details, but during, we had to do an internship. And I think this is kind of an important story because it will probably hit home for some people. It was very difficult to find an internship at a studio.
Yes.
I mean, I understand that 100% now. It was harder to wrap my mind around then, although I went through the struggle and was not able to find one, so it hit pretty quick. But it sparked the idea that if I can't even get an internship where I'm offering to be there and help for free, how am I going to get a job where they're going to have to pay me to do, or I would like to be paid to do the things, right?
Right.
You know? So, and I talked to my professors about it at the time. They're like, yep, we run into this every semester. It is not easy for our students to find an internship at a local studio. So we're okay or willing to let you go outside of the studio realm for your internship. And if you can find almost anything related to music, then we'll probably count that. And they're like, a venue, if you can do live sound, that's cool. And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going to Green Street Club in Greensboro, doing my internship there, which ultimately led to a job. I ended up working there for about a year afterwards, which was really cool.
Nice.
In the live sound realm and lighting and camera stuff and all that. So, but that was a pivotal moment because it made me, or opened my eyes and made me realize that I was going to have a really hard time after college finding a job. And if I wanted to continue to do this, I might need to just branch out on my own and just try to jump in and give it a go alone and see if I can do that. Now, at the time, I'm like 20 years old or 19 years old, and my family, fortunately, my dad mainly, like kind of, helped me realize or pushed me in the direction of business school. And so, like, if you want to start your own business, maybe you should learn something about business.
It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
he was right. And so I did. And so I ended up, that's what got me to Wilmington. So I moved down here in '09 and went to UNCW, Cameron School of Business, pretty good business school in the state, and studied entrepreneurship and business development. I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect, honestly.
That is perfect.
Yeah. It was a new degree at the time, and it fit exactly what I needed or for my skill set to eventually open the studio, what I wanted to do. So I had my recording engineering degree. I then had a degree in entrepreneurship, business development. I put the two together, and after college, started the studio here in Wilmington.
Boom. There it is.
There it is. The reason I landed here or stayed here was because Wilmington has a pretty vibrant music scene.
Yes, it does.
And it did at the time when I was in college. I started playing in a band in college, playing the bass.
Playing the bass.
And with that band, I met a lot of other bands in the area and networked, and that just kind of showed me that, like, wow, there's a lot of music here. There's a lot of musicians here. Maybe I could give things a go here, because I don't know about you, but like there was definitely a time towards the end of college where it was like, should I move to Nashville?
For sure.
Or like, maybe I should move to New York or LA or maybe Atlanta or something like
and
that.
I watched a lot of people do that.
Uh-huh.
Tons of my friends.
Yes, absolutely. And same. And ultimately, I decided against that, and I'm really glad that I did. And that's like kind of the crux of this whole podcast is it is possible to make it in a non-music hub or a smaller city.
Yes.
And have a career, job, multi-path.
Yeah. And that's kind of how you and I connected in many ways. It was, let's see, if I were to take it all the way back to when we first met, it was when I came here for a recording session.
Yeah.
And, I just walked in and was like, oh, I've been in studios like this, but never in Wilmington.
Right.
I had no idea that this was here.
And it hadn't been there for long.
Yeah, it was pretty. This location was newer, right?
This location where we are sitting right now was, I think that session was like a tester session. It was one of my very first sessions here in this space. And I was still, it had just been built and all put together. And I was in the testing and like analyzation process.
Yeah.
And,
awesome.
It's actually, this is my third studio location here in Wilmington. I got started and kind of, ground my teeth in out near Castle Hayne in the North Chase area.
Yeah.
And anyway, I spent the first 9 years out there, and it was great. It was not a studio. It was it was an office space. It was a half office space, half garage.
Okay.
Basically. But what sold me was the garage portion had 24-foot tall ceilings.
Oh, sick, dude.
Yeah. It was a big open space, and I thought, I could probably make some good drum sounds in here.
I bet you could.
Make some cool sounds in here. And I did. I think it was a great space to learn and work in. And the office side was standard. It was probably like 9-foot tall ceilings. I put the control room in there. I had a little lobby, and then the whole rest of the space, the majority of it, probably 2/3 of it, was the live room.
Nice.
Yeah. And spent, like I said, the first 9 years out there, things were, rocky to start. It could be a whole nother episode on the very beginnings of both of our careers. But
Yeah.
I guess to roll it back to education, like, do you need to do what John and I have done, or can you just jump right in? Now, one more thing about that, I have, like, beyond the Guilford Tech degree in recording and the business degree, some years later, after starting the studio, I went to Berkeley Online and got my Pro Tools certification.
Nice.
So continued education, but certification, online, non-traditional school type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think, John? I mean, do you really need a degree in music or engineering or anything like that to be able to get into this?
Yeah.
Or?
I'll tell you what you don't need to be an engineer is a voice performance degree.
Speaking from experience.
I love it. I'm grateful for the path. But yeah, it was a different way to approach it.
Yeah.
I usually, when people ask me this question, and I feel like based off of our conversations we've had, I feel like you get this question pretty often too, like, do I need to go to school?
All the time.
Yeah. I always go back to know thyself.
Yeah.
Like, who are you? What is your style of learning?
Yeah.
Do you know yourself well? Like, are you honest enough with yourself to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you need structure. Like, you need a clear A, B, C, D path to follow. If you are that person, a traditional education route is a great thing for you because it will get you there. If you are that type of person who is a self-starter and doesn't need the amount of structure, then you can self-teach.
Yeah.
And get really far. I mean, what I think is cool about kind of like both of our journeys, but knowing, mine in particular is that there's a large element of self-taughtness to it. Even though I also benefit from structure and having kind of a clear like path in front of me laid out by somebody else. I think some of it too is, if you want to think of it this way, it's kind of like cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah. Good
like
point.
Degrees can be really, really expensive. And there's not a guarantee, as we pointed out, that you're going to get a job after.
Right.
Again, if you're a self-starter type of person, though, you can do what Trent and I have done and carve a path out.
Yeah.
Like, it takes effort and it takes a lot of capital to build a place like this and to run an operation like that. And so, all of it comes down to that too. Truly, I would not have chosen the musical path, I don't think, if I hadn't gotten that scholarship that I got. And I'm really, really grateful to have gotten it because it set me on the course that brought me to where I am today. And I love what I do now.
Yeah.
Like, I love what I do.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I think a lot of it is that. Know thyself. Know, am I going to get out as much? If I give so much to this program, am I going to get enough out of it to make it worth the amount of money and time that I'm going to put into it? I think that's always the question that you have to answer.
I think so too. And I think in this day and age, that's even more relevant than ever because there are so many alternative options for education. Like I'm coming back to whenever you and I, YouTube was not as strong or as prevalent whenever we were studying for our degrees. We needed an expert to share their wisdom with us.
Yes.
Or else it was, there's books for sure, but it kind of goes back to the same thing. Like, am I going to be able to, at that point in time, like, there's no way, I don't think I could have just been disciplined enough to, find all the right books that were, I needed to know what, the information in it to absorb, let alone sit around and read them all and understand it. I needed someone to dissect it a little bit more and show me in real practice.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that drew me towards Guilford Tech versus like 4-year university, App State, Full Sail, Belmont, any of the others is you get more hands-on experience in a technical college than I think you do at university.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that the Jeff Little, the director, like shared with me. Is like, listen, this is really what it's going to come down to. You're going to be behind the board way more here than you would be up there.
Which is a great point.
Yeah.
And to that end as well, I would say, you know, to the listener, as you've heard some of our stories and all of this, what you're probably hearing is the people.
Yeah.
And the relationships. And that's what I think for me has been the most beneficial is
100%.
being in the room with people who really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And learning directly from them.
Yeah. You got to put yourself out there.
You do.
And find those situations like, opportunities come knocking, but if you're just at home, you're probably not there to answer the door, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
You can still learn a whole lot, on your own at home. And honestly, like the way I look at it, I hope a lot of people do too, I'm sure they do, is, you should always be learning. Like education is not not just a moment in your life. It should be a constant that basically persists through, and you should try to be growing at your craft and always in life, really, But, keeping up with, especially in this industry, like it moves quickly. And
it does.
It's because it's technologically driven at this point, and it really kind of always has been. But like now that the digital age is upon us, like it is developing so fast, and you got to be, with it, or else you're going to fall behind, and you're going to have a hard time finding work, and et cetera, right? And so, like, do you need to get? It comes down to what you said. Back to, do you need to go to school to be a recording engineer, producer, or even a performer, performance degree? I would say no to most people, but if you are the type of person that has a hard time focusing and learning on your own, and you need someone to teach you or help you understand the concepts, then I would say, yeah, still relevant, still should.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, and the only other part of that is people go to the bigger schools, the bigger in-person schools for the connections.
Yep.
For the networking.
Yep.
And that's one thing that I don't know, I would say
it's valuable.
Is super, super valuable.
It's very valuable.
And so some of your sticker price for going to school could be in that.
Yeah.
And that's where an online degree, I think maybe you don't get as much out of that. Is you maybe don't make the connections that you would otherwise, at least with other students and things. Now, there are some great online platforms that are allowing that.
Yeah, you've made some good.
Yeah, I've made some great connections through the mastering.com reverse engineer program.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I signed up for that one as opposed to any of the other ones, because I looked at Berkeley Online and a few others, was the fact that they are community-based. You literally get access to this entire platform where you can communicate with other people. You can throw your mixes up there. You can get feedback, not just from the teachers, but also from the rest of the community. And at the time that I was doing it, I think there were like 2,000 of us all in class together. And so that's a big deal. That's something that that's the only thing, if I were going to look at stuff right now, like if I hadn't had any schooling, that would be the one thing I would be considering personally is, who are the people that I will get to meet? Not just who are the engineers or whatever, or the people that I'll get to learn from, but who are the other people that I get to meet?
Yeah.
And some of that goes back to that first day that I was in that Bethel, in the studio at Bethel with Luke. He sat us all down. He introduced himself. I think everybody in the class knew him at that point, like from online or whatever. But he immediately said, "Look around." He said, "All the other 14 people in this room have the potential to change your life." He said,
Nice.
"The best thing you can take away from this entire experience is who you meet in this room today."
Nice. I love that.
And that was part of the life-changing thing for me. I was like, yeah. Like it really is about the people. And I still keep up with a ton of them.
Nice. Yeah.
There's a girl who from that class who lives in Singapore, and she's become a great music producer, and she's like an Ableton whiz now, and like she's awesome.
Cool.
And there are lots of examples like that. There's another guy from Guatemala, and another guy who's a production director at a large church now, and it's the people. And this is a common theme throughout this whole podcast. Is I'm noticing is like it really is about just get to know people. Like we've said it jokingly, like be a good hang, but what we really mean by that is don't just view people who are in your life for a moment as nobodies, because you never know who's going to become a somebody.
Right.
And even if they're a person, they're somebody.
They are. Absolutely.
Everybody's got a story.
And even if they don't become famous or,
Right.
They don't become like the guy for the thing or whatever that is,
Yeah.
you might learn something from them anyway.
Totally.
And they might learn something from you. You could have a great relationship.
Yep.
And you could become friends.
Yes.
I mean, whether whether they keep going in your field or whether you do or not, it doesn't mean that, you couldn't have a nice friendship or relationship of some sort with that person. So be open to it.
Be open to it. And there's one story that really sticks out to me about this. Growing up outside of Atlanta, my next door neighbor was a professional musician, still is. That's what he does full time. He's a great musician. His name is Jay Memory. Check out some of his music. But Jay used to play at all the bars around Atlanta and everything. And there was a time, so this you all have probably figured this out at this point, but Trent and I are not exactly young at this point.
Spring chicken.
But at the time, there was an artist that was going around opening for local bands in Atlanta by the name of John Mayer.
Oh, yeah.
And this was
I've heard of him.
Yeah, you've heard of him?
Yeah.
I thought so. So John was down in Atlanta, and nobody knew who he was, and he would go around and he'd be like, hey, let me open for your band. And so Jay was in a band, a 2-piece band at the time, called Memory Dean. Check out their music. And anyway, and so they were like, oh, what the heck, kid? Like, it's fine. And by Jay's own admission, the way he has talked to me about it is like, he's like, I really wish I had been nicer to that guy back then.
Oh, man.
Because he's like, I was a jerk. I was like, hey, get your crap off the stage. Treated him kind of like junk. And
to John Mayer?
To John Mayer, man.
Bro.
And the funny thing is, though, that John actually apparently is, they keep up. Like,
really?
They do. Like,
awesome.
he sends him his albums and stuff.
Nice.
So, but you truly never know, like, who's going to, wind up making it. I mean, there are tons of talented musicians all around all of us.
Yeah.
And you just never really know. And it's not even really about making it. It's just being a nice person.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the people that you're with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, making it is kind of a loaded term, right?
It is a loaded term.
Because I feel like, I've made it. I feel like you've made it. But I've not won any Grammys. Like, I don't have a whole lot of, industry recognition. But I have a consistent career that's spanned for over 16 years with steady amount of hours, work, and business year after year.
Yep. To me, that's making it.
And for me, that means I've made a career in this.
You've totally made it, man.
Yeah. And so, I may not be famous and may never be, but that's okay with me. It doesn't bother me one bit. I'm doing what I love day in and day out, year after year, and growing and getting better at it.
Yeah.
And meeting cool people and working on great music, and it just keeps getting better.
Yeah. So. And to speak to the heart of why we even started this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, we want everybody listening to realize that is really the goal.
Yeah.
That's where your path should lead you.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time.
The journey is the goal.
If you wake up one morning and you're like the most in-demand mix engineer of all time and you hate it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not good.
That's not the path, man.
No.
That's not the path. But if you wake up every day and you want to put your feet on the ground,
you go
get out of bed
Yeah.
because you love what you do.
Yeah.
You're
going out there and you're getting it,
Yep.
and you're having a good time doing it, then, man,
Yep.
you're doing it right.
You're doing it right, man.
Yeah.
And life will be good.
Absolutely.
Life will be good. So.
And whether you are just a musician and you really get into, recording and you're just having a good time and you kind of figure it out on your own and you just try to go for it after high school, or maybe you work work a job for, 4 or 5 years after high school and doing something unrelated, but it's always a passion that's in the back of your mind. And maybe you're playing in a band or you're playing in your church group, and it's just something that's you're passionate about. And eventually one day you're like, you know what? I don't want to do this job anymore. I want to do music. And then you start then, and you don't go to school or do anything because you've been kind of working on it little bit by little bit over the years as more of a hobby in your spare time, but you want that hobby to be your main thing. You do it, man.
Yeah, just do it.
That's awesome.
Just do the thing.
Good for you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
yeah,
it will take a lot of effort and it will take a lot of knowledge, but if you're able to take that plunge, like, follow your dreams.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every time, man.
Yeah.
Every time.
Totally. If you decide that you want to go to school and learn a good foundation and then give it a go, good for you too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took that route and I'm very thankful for my education was like the basis of my knowledge pool. Right. I learned more in the year to 2 years after college than I did, probably 5 times more than I did in the 2 years that I was in college by doing it. But I don't think I would have been able to achieve that acceleration without the foundation that I had prior.
Correct.
Because I wouldn't have known what I was doing. I'd have been making a lot more mistakes.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have been able to learn from the mistakes that I did make, because I definitely made some, still make some. But without knowing what you're doing, or not knowing what you're doing, but realizing it because you do remember that the professor said that one time, that's when, you learn and you grow and you get better.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
And the education one, it's a hard answer to give, simply because it's really going to depend on who you are, what you like, what gets you going, and all that kind of stuff. But it's I'll say this too. It's never been easier to teach yourself stuff. We've talked about that a little bit with YouTube coming along or whatever. It's also never been easier to listen to people who don't know what they're talking about.
There's a lot of misinformation out there.
There's a ton of misinformation. And again, speaking to the heart of why we started this, we don't know everything.
Nope.
We don't. There's no way I think anybody could know everything about what we do. However, we've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of weeding through the misinformation.
Yep.
We've tried a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we've made probably a lot of mistakes have led to actually figuring out what the right information is. Yeah,
I've got a whole list of tracks that I hope nobody ever finds and listens to.
Yeah, me too.
And, what our hope is to try and distill some of this information into a way that makes it accessible.
Yeah, accessible, digestible, and, maybe help fast track you, or at least give you a little bit of comfort that there's other people out there that are trying to do the same thing, or maybe a little farther down the path than you are and are willing to share some of their journey to help make your path a little less bumpy.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. We're not going to totally make it smooth for you, I'm sure.
No.
You got to get your hands dirty at some point.
Oh yeah.
You got to get in there and
that's right.
make some mistakes.
That's right. So
anyway, hopefully this will help you on your personal journey.
Yeah. So I think that's a good spot to wrap it up for this one.
I do too.
It's a big topic. We could probably go on, but I think those are our experiences, and that's kind of the gist of what it's like this day and age, I'd say.
Yeah.
At least the way we see it.
Yeah, I agree.
So what are you working on this week, John?
Oh, what are we working on? Let's see. This week I'm doing a lot of installation work.
Nice.
So I do that sometimes. I work with several different companies, and they send me out as part of their crew. I contract with them to go out and, work a job installing. A lot of that is churches, but also some event spaces and things like that. So I'm doing 3 this week, actually. And so this is the only day that I'm really in town in Wilmington and not doing a job, because one of them is local. So the scope of those is, one of them is a church that needs an Ableton rig built for them and installed, and they also need to add a few more wireless IEM channels. And so and a bunch of other stuff. But those are the two tasks that I'm going to be on. That's just a 1-day job. And then the other one is a church that needs basically like a whole complete AV overhaul. Like they need a new PA, they need new lights, they need the whole 9 yards. And there's a company that's actually based in Winston-Salem that I do a lot of contract work with.
Nice.
And so they're part of that job. And I'm basically just helping them out. And then the last one is a church up in New Bern, North Carolina. That's an independent job. They're just hiring me to come in and help get their live stream up to, a certain place that it needs to be. Right now, they're really just kind of struggling. They had a guy who wasn't on staff. He was just a volunteer, and he knew a lot about what we do. And so he just kind of helped out, but he's no longer there. So
Gotcha.
they need somebody to come in and help them get to where they need to be. And then that's this week. And after that, I am deep into corporate event season.
All right.
So live mixing a ton of corporate events the next 2 months.
Spring has sprung, right?
Spring has sprung, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel you, man.
What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. I've been doing, this week is going to be a little hodgepodge of things. I've got some drum tracking to do for a singer-songwriter named Jim Ellis. He's from Topsail Beach area, which is about an hour 45, 2 hours from here. And he writes kind of fun, beachy music, and I like it. I wouldn't say that I gravitate towards that music often, but he's just such a positive person that, like, I can't listen to his music and not, like, be happy.
I love that.
And I'm like, this is great. Yeah. This is fun. It's not cheesy. He's like clever with his lyrics, but it's obviously like, beach vibe kind of thing. And it's cool. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. So I'm doing that. And then I've got some vocal tracking for another project. This one comes around every so often. His name is Ron Gitter. He does a lot of the production himself at home.
Cool.
And he's a guitar player, and his wife sings, and he writes all the tracks himself on guitar, and then he sends them out. I think he uses Fiverr, which we should talk about that sometime.
We should.
He uses Fiverr to hire some of the other instruments, drums and bass and such, and then they send him the tracks back, and then he comes here to do vocals. His wife sings, and so she sings on the tracks. They come here to grab a nice microphone, and then I send him the tracks back, and he works on it from there.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, so that's a cool project, little collaboration deal.
Yeah.
And then I got one other one I'll be digging into, Les Fontanelles. I mentioned them before. They're kind of a bluegrassy, folky kind of group. Amazing harmonies, really good songwriting, and they're just a fun hang. They're good people.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
It's going to be a good week.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up for us, guys. Thanks again for listening. And we'll be back again with episode, I don't know whether to call the next one 5. We'll call it 4.
Let's call it 4.
Let's call it 4.
Sure.
With episode 4. Next time you hear us.
That's right. All right.
Until then.
Steady the path.
Steady the path.